Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with Orion and the Wood Elves, going to be taking on the foul Norskins, so let's get to the army compositions. Of course, Orion going to be leading the way. The idea here is we're going to use this Horn of the Wild Hunt, map-wide speed and charge bonus buff to buff up some mobile units here. We've also got the Cloak of Isha, and that's pretty much it, Foe Seeker as well. And as you can see, we've gone with a very mobile sort of hit-and-run style army. So we've got Glade Riders and Glade Riders with Hagbane tips, same group here. And then we've got 3 units of Wild Riders with shields. One here, one in the center. This is the Regiment of Renown Wild Hunters of Kurnos. And we've also got one more unit of Wild Riders way out here on the flank. Then, of course, the Spellsinger Lore of Life up in the air to keep all the elite cavalry alive. And behind her, we've got hidden in the woods back here 4 units of Eternal Guard. So for my opponent, he's got a front line of Marauders, no surprises there. Some Marauder Hunters, interesting to see the Axe version here. Got a couple of Marauder Spearmen, Wolfric the Wanderer. He's also got a Famir Balefine Lore of Shadow, very good choice. Skin Wolves, and over here it looks like 2 Norscan Ice Wolves. So without further ado, let's get the battle rolling. And yeah, you can see immediately I'm going to be trying to isolate and take down my opponent's mobile units. So starting out with these Norscan Ice Wolves. Meanwhile, over here, we're just unloading some shots into these Marauders. Obviously, they are very light armor units, so we can get some damage done at a range here. Just some kind of harass. And yeah. The idea here is if we can draw these hounds into a situation where we pop that Horn of the Wild Hunt and countercharge, can maybe get some Wild Riders coming up out of the woods below, and should be able to finish these guys off. They are getting poisoned right now by the Hagbane tips, which is obviously debuffing their speed. And yeah, you can see now the Horn of the Wild Hunt has been popped these guys up to 119 speed, and here come the Wild Riders as well from the side. And between the speed buff that the Elves are getting and the speed debuff that the Wolves are getting from the poison, they're able to easily catch them and start to drag down these units here. So pretty unfortunate by my opponent there, losing a not super expensive unit, but it's not super cheap either. I mean, those things are what, like 600 points, so not too bad. You can see the Hagbane tips also firing in here. Can do potentially some really good damage to the Skin Wolves, but we'll see. We have been able to take down the 2 units of Ice Wolves, more or less. Orion going to be pitching his Javelin. Oh, no, looks like swing and a miss there. But anyway, I didn't quite spot these guys before, but here come 4 Marauder Horsemasters that had been, I don't know if these guys were like Vanguard deployed back here or something, but they're going to be coming up here trying to challenge my own mobile forces, but this is maybe not the best idea. I mean, these guys do have pretty good combat stats and armor, but the Wild Riders will take them to town, and now that the Hagbane tips are poisoning them, they're not going to be able to get away, and you can see the Wild Riders easily catching up to these guys, and going to start to drag them down here as well. Granted, the Wild Riders will take a bit of damage on that pursuit, but the shields in particular, there's a reason I brought them, and that's exactly this sort of situation. Meanwhile, this unit of Wild Riders is going to go ahead and just do a quick hit and run in the front line, just to make sure my opponent's advance is not clean or easy. We want to make his life a little bit hard here. And yeah, in the back line, you can see we're just trying to isolate these Marauder Horsemasters. One unit has taken a ton of damage, already routing, and Orion going to be making his way back there as well, while the Hagbane tips and the other Glade Riders just kind of screen out the Marauder main line here. Again, we're playing very much sort of a mobile hit-and-run style of play here, so trying to isolate units is going to be the name of the game, and we are able to isolate these Marauder Horsemasters quite well. You can see they're don't have a whole lot of support as they ride through the woods here. The Hagbane tips and everything, you know, it's going to be tough. They're going to have a hard time getting away, and I mean, if they can get like Horsemasters one-on-one with Glade Riders, they'll do very, very well, but the Glade Riders, you know, they're greater in number, they've got Wild Riders supporting, and they've also got Orion, who can potentially throw down another Horn of the Wild Hunt. I believe it's just about off cooldown there. So yeah, Marauder Horsemasters getting caught up on the corner of the map here by the Wild Riders. Very unfortunate situation for Norsca. Yeah, their main line here, though, is just continuing to trudge up through the forest. I did go ahead and hit them with a charge with some Wild Riders here, but my opponent, very well done, hit me with an Overcast. Let's see, Pit of Shades there, actually did a ton of damage to those Wild Riders and routed them off. I did manage to get a regrowth on them, unfortunately not in time to save their leadership. I also did a ton of damage to some of those Glade Riders as well, so my opponent has taken some damage, but definitely not taking it lying down. That being said, the Marauder Horsemaster situation here is just really bad. I mean, each of these guys are 700 points, a relatively expensive unit of Skirmish Cav. getting dragged down like this without having done a whole lot in return is pretty rough. I mean, granted, they have taken down quite a bit of health off these Hagbane tips here and the other Glade Riders. This unit of Wild Riders with shields also has taken a substantial amount of damage, so it hasn't been completely for free. But that being said, Orion's going to come in here. The Wild Hunters of Kurnos got a nice charge as well, but Wulfric going ahead and using that Hunter of Champions on Orion does mean he's going to start to take quite a bit of damage, especially from those Skin Wolves, who of course have anti-large. They do not have armor piercing, in fact. Relatively poor armor piercing values. But yeah, Orion with the Cloak of Isha, I'm not honestly too worried about him dying here. I'm just kind of letting him tank this entire pocket here for my opponent. And my opponent looks like he's moving up a few other troops. We've got some Wild Riders kind of maneuvering around in the flanks. The Wild Hunters of Kurnos going to continue to cycle charge in here. And of course, anytime they do come in for another cycle charge, they're going to be giving that Guardian aura to Orion there. So he gets a bit of extra physical resistance to help him hang in the fight. And we've just about got him free. Looks like Enfeebling Foe goes down on him just as he's able to squeak away there. Meanwhile, on the back line, the last of the Marauder Horsemen just about to be cleaned up by those Wild Riders there. And the Glade Riders, having been freed up, are now moving around. You can also see that we, since we disengaged here, Wulfric followed. Unfortunately, the infantry did not follow up. So that does mean that the Eternal Guards, now emerging from the woods here in the kind of mid to late game, are going to get some good work done. A very nice C-Fang by my opponent. Could have been a little bit better, but it did manage to catch some of those Eternal Guard there. But yeah, Wulfric is all of a sudden really uncomfortable. I mean, Orion does anti-large AP. He's doing a ton of damage to Wulfric, but my opponent is going to go ahead and drop another Pit of Shades here. Very well done to take out these Eternal Guards, but I mean, Orion is the biggest danger to Wulfric at this point. You can see very cool shot of them just fighting in this Pit of Shades. Yeah, Orion gives zero crap about the Pit of Shades. Might stagger him a little bit there, but he's going to have no problem going after Wulfric there. Wulfric does land a nice rear charge on those Eternal Guards, but he's going to have to be careful. Looks like the Wild Riders coming around for another rear charge here. These Wild Hunters of Kurnos, just continuously cycle charging here, are going to go ahead and get another proc of the Horn of the Wild Hunt, so more charge bonus for everyone coming in. Will that actually wear off, though, before these guys get into combat? Looks like not quite, so they do take advantage of that increased charge bonus and speed, as do the Glade Riders coming in from the side here. And suddenly the Norscan forces are a little bit surrounded here, just getting charged by Elves on all sides. They've got Eternal Guards on all sides. Wulfric comes over here to try and finish off these Elves. Granted, the Glade Riders are able to catch him a little bit here. Some damage also being done by the Hagbane tips, so that's pretty decent. But there are some Marauders on station to support, so it's doubtful that we could finish him off. But a huge terror rout goes down. Of course, Orion does cause fear and terror, and all these units here, you can see just a huge mass terror rout as they get surrounded and suddenly realize they're fighting what is essentially like a greater demon of nature, I guess you could call him. But yeah, Orion going to be moving over here, trying to take out Wulfric, potentially. Yep, looks like he's got his sights set on Wulfric, so Wulfric's going to come in. Oh, man, look at Orion there. Just dead stops that chariot, man. What a true Chad. Just lancing the chariot here of Wulfric the Wanderer. Won't be long before it goes down. And, yep, with Wulfric down, that is going to start to cause some severe leadership issues, unsurprisingly. A lot of the units that had broken in that massive terror rout there are going to, you know, just continue to get run down by the more mobile elf units. And this Famir is going to try and take on Orion, but this is just a bad day for Sadmir. So feels Badmir, going to run away with his purple hand back to the swamps and tell tales of Wulfric's demise. So very fun stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. It's a super fun battle. I found myself enjoying playing sort of non-traditional Wood Elf builds quite a bit lately, like Orion, the Ancient Tree Man, Durthu, just kind of playing the non-glady, you know, kite style that you see so often with Wood Elves. This time we're playing with a very sort of almost like Bretonia-esque, or like a High Elf-esque, or even like a Beastman sort of hit-and-run style, very, very mobile, using that Horn of the Wild Hunt especially to beef up the charge bonus and really get some work done. You can see all three units of Wild Riders just cleaned house here. 141, 66, and 189 for the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Very impressive. The Glade Riders also managed to get some good work done as well. Eternal Guard, of course, just coming in the late game to act as a kind of sweeper force. But yeah, it definitely worked out well. For my opponent, I think his build is pretty solid. I would definitely change out these Marauder Hunters for something with the shield. You know, I'd have to look at exactly the cost, but you may be able to parlay that into upgrading a couple of these regular Marauders to Marauder Champions, who actually trade quite well with pretty much all Wood Elf infantry except maybe Wildwood Rangers, but still, I do think that they're a pretty solid pick in this matchup. The Chariots as well, believe it or not. I mean, obviously I had a sort of Wild Rider build, which would have been pretty good against Chariots, but if you can have the tools to deal with the Wild Riders, then your Chariots will be more or less free to just run over all the light elf infantry. But in general, you know, the Norscan Ice Wolves definitely pretty good. You got to be pretty careful with them, though. I'm not the biggest fan of Skin Wolves, definitely. So I think that if you were to cut those Skin Wolves down and just get more Hounds to try and deal with Wild Riders, you can really, you know, deploy your Hounds with your Marauder Horse Masters. And let's just go ahead and quickly jump into it here. So if we go to Norsca, so yeah, Wulfric on the Chariot, not a terrible pick against the Wood Elves here. We'll go ahead and keep pretty much all of his abilities except Foe Seeker. Shadow Balefiend, also pretty solid. We're going to go ahead and keep Enfeebling Foe, Melkos, and the Penumbral Pendulum, rather than the Pit of Shades, although my opponent did make some very good use of that Pit of Shades there. I'm going to hang on to the Pendulum. We'll grab a couple of champions, and then some some Marauders with just shields and axes. And then to help counter Wild Riders, the 4 Horse Masters, not a bad idea. We'll go ahead and just back them up with Beasts of Tashnar and some additional Norscan Ice Wolves. And yeah, we've still got a few points left here, so maybe we grab, we don't quite have enough for an Ace Chariot, which would be really nice. But let's see what else. I mean, Berserkers obviously will cut through Wood Elf Infantry no problem. Most Wood Elf Infantry. The issue is that they are pretty vulnerable to missiles, so, I mean, against a heavy missile faction like the Wood Elves, obviously, can be potentially pretty risky. But you know, one thing you could do, now this will impact your melee ability a little bit here, but the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, it's interesting. These guys actually have a missile block chance, whereas the regular Marauder Horsemen and Horse Masters do not, so it is a little bit of a niche, as well as the Armor Piercing does give you some damage against trees, if they do happen to bring that. This also just frees up a little bit more points for us. We could potentially do some other things, like just getting more Norscan Hounds, you know, just to really go heavy on the Hound squad here. And this would give us a pretty strong mobile presence, although these guys would definitely get taken down by Wild Riders. You know, you got to try and use your magic and see if you can't force some kind of favorable engagement. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Not an expert on this matchup by any means. I do think it's potentially pretty tough for Norsca, but let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.